Welcome to the Banger Report, episode 1, okay? I'm your host, Comic84. Thank you for stopping by. And yeah, I've been wanting to do a show like this for a while where probably gonna highlight like 2 books per episode and like deep dive on them. Who worked on it, take a look at the inside, what's going on the inside of the book. Are there any key aspects to it? What's it selling for? What has it been selling for? Is it a book that's like trending upwards, downward? What do graded high grades go for? Low grades, raw copies? What's the eBay sales? The whole bit. You know what I'm saying? Deep diving on a couple books, and yeah, it's like I wish there was more content, that would do this kind of stuff. So like they say, best way to make the kind of content you would like to see. So this is the kind of stuff I'd like to see, and this is what I want to put out for the people. So we're gonna talk bangers, and by the way, shout out to Biggie Shack. The name of the show, Banger Report. I gotta give shout out to my man Biggie Shack, who he always has like the funniest and just best titles to his videos. And there was one that he had like recently, Banger Report, he called it, and I'm like, damn, that's good. Because I had been thinking about this show and I wasn't sure what to call it, and I was like, yo, Banger Report. So asked Biggie if that was cool. Yeah, man. So shout out to Biggie Shack, New World Order Comics. Make sure you check him out. So let's just get right down to business, right? Because I don't want these to be like big, long videos. You know what I mean? Let's start with what I classify as a banger, because this show is, it's focused around how I collect, what kind of books I go for, and all that good stuff. So I can only speak for myself and my collecting style with it. So let me kind of fill you in on what I feel like is a banger when I'm out, shopping for books. Hence this Venn diagram. So as you can see, there's 3 things that I try to have come together when I'm talking about buying like a book that's more than, say, like 30, 40 bucks. Because, does every single book that I buy need to fit this criteria? No. Picking up new comic book day, reader stuff, dollar bin diving, flea market hauls, whatever. It's not like every book needs to fit this criteria. But, I'm assuming that you collect somewhat like me is, I have my smaller money pickups, but then sometimes I like deliberately want to buy particular books, and that's when I'm going to like allocate a little more money to it. 50 bucks, 100 bucks, 1,000 bucks, whatever. Everyone's range is different. And once I get into that conversation, these are the things that I look for, because, I want my money to, the books I buy, I would prefer for them to hold value and stuff like that. So Venn diagram, the 3 things that I like to have considered when I'm doing my banger shopping. Golden Age to Copper Age. I've really been leaning away from modern stuff, more when it comes to like collectability type of pickups. A lot of like the new reading and shit like that, indies. I'm just doing that in trade paperback form, but so I'm talking, Golden Age. I don't pick up many Golden Age, but I keep them on the radar if you can snag a good deal. Golden to Copper Age, I feel like, is a really sweet spot. There's tons of good books in that range of comics. I was almost like thinking Golden to Bronze Age, but then I'm like, no, you know what? Late 80s has tons of awesome books, and even early 90s, But once you get into like late 90s and 2000s, there's a big drop off. There's a lot of, stuff that I think is not worth, spending a lot of money on. So anyway, so that's what my criteria, personal criteria. I'm looking for stuff in the Golden and Copper Age, stuff that fits my collection. And obviously that's going to change depending on the person, whatever fits your collection. And the stuff that I'm saying when I say like fits my collection, that can change over time, because, if you asked me 2-3 years ago, I would say picking up a lot of Silver Age Superman, for example, didn't really fit my collection. Now it does, because I'm having a lot of fun. Now that I've gotten like a lot of my Marvel stuff out of the way, my X-Men, Silver Surfer stuff, I got a lot of the books that I wanted to get. So now it's like I'm having fun dipping into DC. But anyway, stuff like, you know, there are probably a number of undervalued Bronze Age Ninja Turtle books, for example, TMNT books. You know, they might fit those two criteria, but they don't really fit my collection. So anyway, fits the collection and undervalued. Now, undervalued is like a tricky one because, you know, a book, you can think something's undervalued, but at the end of the day, the way the market works, the way capitalism works or whatever, supply and demand, is whatever something is selling for today, that's what it's worth. You know what I'm saying? So undervalued should almost have an asterisk. What I think is undervalued. And there's a couple things I consider when I deem a book undervalued, in my opinion, you know what I'm saying? But that's a little more of a fluid one. But it's also a fun one that I'm like, what? Trying to sniff out if I think something might be slept on. Anyway, so that when those three things line up, a banger is what we have. All right, let's get right to it. The first book, that was my intro preamble. First book we're talking about is Captain America 290. That's right, baby. From 1984. Badass John Byrne cover artwork. It's got like that negative space, negative color vibe to it. That's like popular nowadays, like those John Tyler Christopher, David Nakayama type covers. But awesome John Byrne cover. And the key aspect, first appearance of Mother Night. This gal right here, Mother Night. So the cool thing about Mother Night is she is the daughter of Red Skull. And, you know, she starts out as Mother Night, but she ends up, you know, going by different aliases. She becomes Sin later on and stuff like that. But this is the book we're talking about. And before we get into, I'm going to talk a little more about like this character, Mother Night, who is her first appearance, who I think is someone that's worth noting and maybe even worth specking on. And we're going to get into the sales history and all that kind of stuff. But before we do that, why don't we take a look inside the book and see what's cooking there. All right, let's take a look inside the issue. Oh yeah, an issue like this, you're always going to get a lot of glare with all those heavy blacks. It's like those negative space variants that you see. But this one's in pretty good shape. I'd say maybe my copy is like a VF. I think maybe you could get a low 9 or something like that. Anyway, let's take a look. Fantastic cover, obviously, by John Byrne. And let's take a peek inside. 1984 opens up with a pretty badass Cap splash page. We got J.M. DeMatteis on the writing duties. Ron Frenz on the breakdowns or layouts. Steve Leilahola. I'm not too familiar with him. But yeah, we'll just cruise through. I'm not going to do a full plot synopsis here, but, you know, Cap's showing off for his lady. Bernie is her name. They're just kicking it at Avengers Mansion. Just a little quality time with his girl. Boom, here's a Nomad. And his little funky, I think that's Bucky. He calls him Jack in this, but I forget what Nomad's deal is. But basically he's catching up with Nomad. They go for a night on the town. And bam, here's our debut first page with Mother Superior. Pops onto the scene. She's got like some kind of magical powers here when she's first introduced. This is her linking up with Baron Zemo. Cap gets together with Falcon. Cruising the streets, and then the plot continues with Mother Superior and Baron Zemo paying this dude Artie a visit, and then coincidentally, immediately is visited by Cap and the boys. Then when we get to the end of the issue here, they're hanging out with Artie, and Mother Superior brings Baron Zemo into the master chambers of this house and says, let me present you to my father, my master, my lord, the Red Skull. And Zemo says, Mein Gott. So, bam, we get Mother Superior, and she, informs Zemo about Red Skull being her dad. Let's see. Oh, that's not the end. Here we go. Then we get a little setup for some action. A giant crow. Maybe that's one of her powers. I don't know. Like I said, she's very magic based here on the front end of her time, but she moves away from that later. But bam, there's the inside. Hope you enjoyed that inside view of the book. So Mother Night, let's talk about Mother Night now. She starts out kind of looking like this with a, Mother Night, obviously, the Mother Superior, I'm sorry, not Mother Night, Mother Superior. Kind of starts out with like a nun gimmick, and she keeps that for a little while, like issue 295. She's, the leader of the Sisters of Sin, and she's got her little nun crew. But, Sisters of Sin, that's interesting because that is what her name goes on to be. But just a quick editor's note, Mother Superior, not to be confused with the Mother Superior who's like a Ghost Rider character, who's like also another nun. She's like a 2009 Ghost Rider series character created by Jason Aaron. So we're not talking about that Mother Superior from Marvel. We're talking about this Mother Superior that went on to go by the name of Sin. So like they ditched the nun stuff. They lean into the Sin deal. Hold on, my set's falling apart. An intern is gonna get fired today. Trust and believe that. So Sin, she kind of gets more like military style, gun toting. She has like a little fling relationship with Crossbones. Her and Crossbones are kind of like a duo for a while, and she rolls with Hydra. So that's kind of what she evolves into in the 2000s. And notably, she, for a period of time, becomes the next Red Skull. So I think it was a pretty short-lived thing. There's this cover, I think it's cover art that I found this online. If anyone watching this knows what this art is from, that is like, what a tremendous cover that is. I think it's a cover. I don't even know. I just found this image online and I could not retcon it back to where it came from. But that's pretty cool. I think that's from the era that I'm talking about of her taking over as Red Skull. So anyway, that's her deal. And as far as the little speck powder, speck juice, speck dust that could be on this book, rumor has it, Mother Superior, Sin, what have you, potential Captain America, like Falcon, Captain America movie villain, character, something like that. So there might be something to that, But that's where, in our little Venn diagram, that's where Fits My Collection comes into play. Because, yes, I like specking on stuff. I think it's pretty fun. But it's got to be books that, like, fit I'll be happy to have, And a book like this will always have a place in my collection. I'm a John Byrne fan. It's from a cool era of Captain America. It's, mid 80s, so the thing's never gonna tank and be worth $1 or $5, in decent shape. So that's what I mean by fits the collection. That way you can never go wrong. I don't buy all my books with the hopes of selling it, but it's nice to have that option. Bang. So speaking of selling the book, let's get into the sales data. First, let me pull up the GPA analysis. So here's GPA. There's not a ton of sales of this book slabbed. As you can see, 7.0 is like the lowest grade number that it gave me. The 8.0 sold in December, sold last month, this month, whenever you're watching this. 8.0, $38. So anywhere from like an 8.0 up until a 9.2 is between like $40 and $50. So you can get fairly higher grades on this, very cheap. Once you get into the higher grades, 9.4, that was sold in the summer, $180. 9.6, it looks like there's a Canadian price variant, but I'm not sure if there's a premium on that. 9.6 sold a couple of months ago for $150, and the 9.8, $400, and that was from May. And I would not be surprised one bit if this book goes for a premium at 9.8, because with a cover like that, with all those solid blacks, it's going to be a tough one. And as we get into these eBay listings, you're going to see, like, there ain't many 9.8s. Maybe they're not getting graded that much, that often, no doubt, but it's going to be slim pickings, I think. This is a book that I would recommend just trying to find clean, raw copies of. If you do want a 9.8, find clean copies of this thing and maybe try submitting them that way. Now, let's get into some... let's get into the 9.8, a deeper dive into the 9.8. So I like to be aware of the trend of, is the book going up, down? This book, as you can see, at 9.8, has been trending upwards in the last couple of years, up to that $400 mark. That $400 sale was from April of 2021. So the book is trending upwards, which isn't always what I'm looking for. There's some books that I do want to see them trending up, and there's some down. We'll get to that later with my next book. So that's the deal. It's a trending upward book. Let's jump to the eBay listings. What's posted on eBay right now for this book? There's one 9.8 on eBay, and this dude is not playing around. Clearly, he must be well aware that he has the only 9.8 listed, because he's got $1,450, almost $1,500, or best offer, which I would expect on that. So that's the one. And 9.6, this guy's looking for $650 or best offer. Doesn't mean that's what he's gonna get. Doesn't mean I'm interested in giving him that, but that's what he's asking. Oh no, we're just gonna let the set fall apart. It's fine. I was trying to hide, transparency. I was trying to hide this white curtain with that black thing. But you know what? This is the 84 channel, dude. We're just gonna let it roll. Okay, let's look at some sold. So the last graded copy that was sold was an 8.5, and that was December 14th, 2021. 8.5 sold for $30. One guy bid on it. And as far as raw copies go, yeah, between 10 and $20 is what this thing sells for. So very attainable. And yeah, man, I think that's all I got to say on it. That's the deal with this book, Cap 290. I think it's a solid book to put in the collection. Try to find a nice, clean, high-grade copy, because I don't think they're growing on trees. And, if a day comes where people are wanting to snag this book in higher numbers, they're going to want high copy. Those high-grade copies are going to get snagged up. So get yours. There's a good chance that it's only going to cost you between, $20, $30. Bang. That has been Cap New 90. Banger reported. All right, book number 2, the next book on my banger report list here is this gem right here. Iron Man, Submariner, one shot from 1968. Feast your eyes. Um, you know, notable things about this book. Marvel's first one shot. From what I understand, the first book where they put it out with the intention of it being a #1 issue, and there was no #2 coming. So boom, Marvel's first one shot. And it's also notable that this is the book that they put out just before they launched Submariner #1 and Iron Man #1. It's that time in 1968 where they just, I think there was like an expansion at Marvel or something like that. And that's when all our big fan favorite characters that were killing it in these other titles like Tales of Suspense, Tales to Astonish, all got their own series. So that was like, let's see. Yeah, we're talking Iron Man #1, Submariner #1, Captain America 100 got his own title, Hulk 102 got his title, Doctor Strange 169. So that's when all those characters kind of got their own book. So this was the little one shot they put out just before that. And as far as like undervalued goes, I mean, we're gonna go into the pricing momentarily of what this thing sells for, and frankly, I'm surprised. I feel like it is undervalued. Granted, it's not a first Silver Age appearance. In fact, it's far from a first Silver Age appearance. This is 1968, and I think it's like 1962 or something, where Submariner debuts in the Silver Age, Fantastic Four, #4. And then he was hanging around for a while. He was in the Tales to Astonish, jumping around in X-Men, Fantastic Four. So it's not like even an early appearance of Submariner for the Silver Age, but I still think it's a notable one. It's an important one. And the fact that it's a one-shot, I think just kind of makes it a little more special, prestigious book. And yeah, I got to think as far as the undervalued goes, it's going to be Namor Mania, I'm sure, once he pops up on the screen. There's already tons of activity going on of people scooping up all these Submariner keys. And the ones that I keep seeing is, no one's really touching the Golden Age. Those are, good luck trying to get early stuff with that. But what I see is, Submariner #1, the issue after this one, FF #4, X-Men 6, something like that, where Submariner debuts in X-Men. So those are like the kind of Submariner keys that I'm seeing like a lot of activity on. But I think this one should be considered right up there. I think, like, as far as Silver Age appearances go, I mean, I think you got FF4, the X-Men one, which I think is like #6, Submariner 1, the issue right after this, and then this one. I think as far as like important early Submariner books from the Silver Age 60s, this one's where it's at. But it doesn't seem to be getting the love that I would expect it to. So before we get into that, let's have some fun and take a look inside the book. All right, let's take a look inside of Iron Man Submariner 1 one shot. Here's my copy here. As far as grade condition, I don't know. Maybe it's like a 5.0. Could use a press to get that crease out. Anyway, let's continue. Let's go through this thing. Gene Colan's doing the artwork on both stories. Archie Goodwin wrote the Iron Man story. Pretty cool splash page of this gambling ring getting crashed. Even though this is considered a one-shot, they don't read like a one-shot. Like, this is just a leftover story from Tales of Suspense that they popped in here, and this story actually continues in Iron Man #1. Iron Man's like in a a shipping vessel that is doing gambling out at sea type deal of AIM. So boom, and then you start the Submariner story. I always thought, up until I opened this thing and read it when I bought it, I always thought this was like a legit one-shot story featuring Submariner and Iron Man. That's what the cover and the title kind of makes you assume, but two separate stories that they just plop you right in the middle of it, and then they continue in their respective #1 issues. Roy Thomas wrote this one, but Gene Colan still doing the artwork, some cool shadows. Got that classic Namor arched eyebrow look. I love that half-page splash right there, where he says, "By the shifting mires of Sargassol." See, the origin of Namor in a book all his own. Next ish. Astonishing Males of Suspense. Isn't that a clever? Okay. Bam. That's the inside of the issue. Now you know. All right. I hope you had some fun taking a look inside this fun issue. Now, let's get right into pricing stuff. Let me try to pick up the pace a little bit here. Let's get into the GPA of this book, what it sells for. We got our GPA analysis up right here. Your 2.0, we got a 2.0 at 275, last sold in July of 2021. And from there, right up until, golly, right up until this 6.0 that was sold in December of 2021, where people are still spending right around the same amount of money, around $200. So it's safe to say low grade, I think spending around a couple $100 is the norm. Let's jump up another tier to mid grade. So we're looking at from 7.0 to 9.0 right here. Let's see, a couple older sales, but here's, that 7.0 is from December, $375. Let's jump up to the 8.5, which sold in December, $900 for an 8.5. And now let's look at the tippy top tier high grade. And, now is where we're talking above $1,000. 9.2 sold in December for $1,140. 9.6 in September was sold for $6,000. And that's what I would expect. Is me personally, when I'm looking at buying books like this, I ain't looking at nothing in the nines, really. Because, you expect to pay top dollar. So it doesn't surprise me that a 9.8, sold for 20 grand. Of course it did. Now, let's do a deeper dive in what I think is kind of like my sweet spot for a book like this. Usually it would be even a grade lower, like 4 to 5 is a nice spot. 3.5 to like 5 is a nice spot for Silver Age Keys for me. But because this book is selling so cheap, let's look at mid-grade, 6.0. This 6.0, this was the one that sold for $228. And look at that graph, y'all. Boom, trending downward, tanking, right? Going downward. Now, to me, that's great news to me. That's what we want to see on a book like this, because it's like, you're going to notice this on the last graph too, is where that spike happens. I think that's right around where, that's like September, somewhere between August and September of 2021. And that was when they announced that Submariner was like confirmed for Black Panther. And everyone runs out and starts buying them because the news is fresh. And then a little time passes and look at the books drop, So That's good. Now it's our time to strike. This is when I'm looking for these books, preferably. Let it cool off a bit. So, whereas a book like Cap 290, a book like that, I want to see it climbing up because it's a shorter money book anyway. It's from the 80s. I would probably be discouraged if I saw that book like consistently tanking. But a book like this, I'm totally fine with seeing it take some sharp dips like this because I know this book is not going to, plummet to the ground and not be worth anything. That's for sure. So, yeah, 6.0, 228 was the last sale. And let's jump up to 7.0 just to see if that performance was like a little different. And we see the same thing. We see that same spike in the same month and it, falling downward. All good. I'm happy to hear that. 375. So I don't know if you agree with me, but I think this book at a 7.0, especially if we're talking like a slab 7.0, I would happily pay 375 all day long for that. So I think it's a good value buy. Now, that's what GPA sales have told us is happening. Let's see what's happening on the mean streets of eBay. Let's hit it. All right. eBay, highest grade copy listed on eBay is this 8.0 slabbed. Dude has a buy it now for $790. And let's just refer back to the chart. What is last sold? So last sold of an 8.0 was in December for $676. That's the last recorded sale for an 8.0. So I mean, he's not like on another planet with that asking price, but that's why you hit these fools up. Even if it doesn't say best offer, you still slide into those DMs and say, hey, can we work something out? And maybe you can, knock 75, $100 off of that. I know I would give it a shot. All right, that's the highest grade one. Now let's get into raw copies. So raw copies we're seeing, anywhere from 350, 395. And this guy has, a higher grade copy looking at 680. So that's what the scene looks like for listed sales. Let's look at a 6.0 slab, 389. And this one's getting bid on right now. There's 1 day left as of when I took that screenshot. I wonder what it sold for. Maybe I'll edit that in, but maybe not. Now let's look at, we see what they're asking. What's it selling for on the Bay? Boom. Look at this, November 14th of this year, my birthday. November 14th, a VF near mint copy, that thing, a clean, sharp copy, a bidding war of 54 people. That thing landed at 326. 326. That's crazy. Let's jump to this one. $150 on December 16th. So this is a very recent sale. He doesn't list the condition, but I did take a look at it beforehand. And I mean, I think that thing was like around a 5.0, 4, maybe like a 4 to 5. It was a pretty decent copy. It was pretty similar to my copy. So that's a hell of a price for that guy at 150. So yeah, man, I think so. That's what the book sells for. Conclusion that have drawn is that this is a pretty solid book that would be a great one to have in your collection. I'm just giving you a little bit of intel on the book so you can, mull it over, give it some thought. I mean, it's not a secret book. I'm sure everyone's aware of this book, but that's what the Banger Report is about. We're going to pop on, hopefully, on a fairly regular basis. I'm just going to hit you with a couple of books that I think are cool. There'll be some Marvel, some DC. Some will be keys, some will not. And, we're just going to check them out. Books that I'm into, okay? Books that, aren't all over these hot lists yet. So that's what the Banger Report's going to be about. Let me know what you think. Any feedback would be welcome. It's been a long time since I put the time and effort into making a video and editing and put it all together. So give me some feedback. I'd appreciate it. I'm going to work on fine-tuning my recipe and my formula here. Maybe keep the pace a little tighter. I don't know what the final time minute's going to be on this thing, but I might work to keep it tighter. I might even introduce a couple other, gimmicks to the things that I cover on these books. And that's the deal. Let me know your thoughts on these books. Are they in your collection? Do you have them already? Are they going onto your want list? Whatever. Holler at me. Thanks for checking it out. See you next time.